Thank you for joining me. The introit for Sunday, December 6th is from Psalm 80. Restore us, O God. Let your face shine, that we may be saved. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, you who lead Joseph like a flock. You who are enthroned upon the cherubim, shine forth. You brought a vine out of Egypt. It took deep root and filled the land. Restore us, O God of hosts. Let your face shine, that we may be saved. Now, as we work our way through Advent and the time when we focus on the birth of Jesus and the completion of the promise of God to give to us a Messiah, we see that the introit interacts with the themes of protection and restoration. At the start of this introit, the psalmist asks quite bluntly, "Restore us, O God." When something is in need of restoration, there usually is a problem. I think we know well the desire for things to be restored. With this pandemic, we know the strain and the stress it has put on many things. We know the stress it has placed upon relationships. We know the strain it has placed upon livelihoods and communities. Now, in Advent, we not only get to see Jesus again, but we are also confronted with the reality of sin and the brokenness of the world. There is a desire for all that is broken to be restored. And that is the hope that Christmas brings. Restoration is a task that Jesus was focused on. In his ministry, he spent a lot of time restoring people. He healed the sick. He corrected that which was not right. The brokenness that was brought on all about because of sin. And that restoration not only had direct benefits for people there and then, but it also points to the restoration that will happen on the last day. Advent means arrival. And we are encouraged during the season of Advent to remember the arrival of Jesus on that night in Bethlehem. But we are also encouraged to remember that one day Jesus will return. It is on that day that the complete restoration of all of creation will happen. And the other theme of this introit is one of protection and nurture. The psalmist calls God the shepherd of Israel. And a shepherd was responsible for the well-being of the sheep, and not only focused on their health, but also put them in positions to grow and produce wool. Now, God's position as caretaker sets itself up as the reason to restore. God has put so much care into his people that the ask to restore does not seem far-fetched or a distant dream, but one that ties into the care that God has already shown. God planted his people into the land and nurtured them. The God who did that will not let them fade away, and indeed he does not. This Advent, we see the care and love that God has for his creation. Instead of staying out of it, instead of staying at a distance, he comes to be in our midst, to be with us and among us. It is him and his presence that gives to us salvation. And I know that this time of year can be busy, and this time of year can be filled with joy and happiness, but it can also be filled with frustration and a reminder of brokenness, not only in our lives, but in the world. However, God's provision and his care for his creation does not depend upon us and what has happened to us. It does not depend upon the circumstances surrounding our lives. God's care for us is all about him. And in the middle of uncertainty, all the uncertainty surrounding Christmas and the celebrations, in the middle of the shadow of doubt over the state of the world, it is certainly appropriate to join in with the psalmist and ask God to let his face shine so that he can be seen. And more importantly, so his salvation may be known. Nothing changes the fact that God is with us, and nothing changes the fact that with Jesus comes salvation. Thank you for joining me.